Moving on from this slightly, but still on Arsenal, because I don't really understand where this has come from, and I'm looking for it. But this is Judge Mo's question, not mine. Who's better, Liverpool or Arsenal this season? Over to you, Mo, to explain.
So the reason why I was on a space yesterday that had thousands of people, but on spaces after the games, and a couple of the people that you're the king of
now 2 years after Hussam.
He's so
you're very humble. You're very humble. And someone brought in a very good point that I'm not sure if I agree with him or not, but I had a thought about it. Is that they said that Arsenal this season are actually, Arsenal in England are the best team, and Liverpool are not the best team. And Arsenal, if it wasn't for injuries, if it wasn't for what happened, if it wasn't for circumstances that went with Liverpool and stuff like this, and if it wasn't for Salah having a season that is out of the ordinary, that doesn't happen often, basically Salah is about to have the season, or basically Liverpool are about to have a player that will have the best season ever in the history of the Premier League. Factually today, Salah has had the best season ever from any football player in a 38-game Premier League season. He already broke the record. We all know that. Like, he already broke the record. They said that Arsenal are the best team in England. And they said that they're better than Liverpool, better than Man City, and better than everyone. And if it wasn't for the injuries, and it wasn't for Mohamed Salah having that season, as a whole, as a team, Arsenal are better drilled. Arsenal are a better team as a whole. Arsenal are better coached. But the injuries hindered them, and maybe the recruitment and the January transfer window. But they said that as a team, they are better. I had a thought about it, to be honest. And I'm like, my opinion is that Arsenal have not played very well this season. But I'm also looking at Liverpool, and I'm thinking that Liverpool played very well. But we factor in Salah as part of Liverpool having an odd season, having a season that it's not replicated. That never happened in the history of in the Premier League, ever. Someone is having that good of a season. And I'm thinking maybe there's an argument behind that. And people need to think about it when they say Arteta out. And by the way, the people that said that are not even Premier League fans. That is someone that covers Italian sports, but also covers English sport, and they don't support any team in the Premier League. The person that said that on the space, he works as a journalist and he covers the Premier League sometimes in Serie A. He doesn't even support any Premier League team. And that was in the beginning, it was a wild take, and then they kept explaining all the points that I am explaining, right? I'm explaining these points, like the injuries and Liverpool being lucky that Salah is having this. Not lucky, like it's part of the team. And I thought about it and I said, maybe some Arsenal fans that want Arteta out should think about that before they want the manager out. That this is one-off season, that this is a season that might not be replicated. Liverpool having the most two important players, Van Dijk and Salah, fit all season, and Arsenal having the most important players injured. Yet they're still second. I'm not sure what you guys think about it, but I thought about it. I'm like, this is an argument there that can be presented for the Arteta out especially. Because that doesn't happen every season. When the team that is well drilled get their best player injured for 3 months, which is basically about half the season or something less. I don't know what you guys have to think about that.
I think that people making excuses for Arsenal this season are so full of shit, because Arsenal this year have dropped points in 14 out of the 31 games. That's almost a 50% ratio. Arsenal Football Club have dropped points essentially once every 2 games. They have a horrible record away from home. They've scored less goals in the league this season than Tottenham Hotspur, so like they've conceded more goals than Newcastle. I look at Arsenal this season, and the reason why they can't make excuses is 4 games. 4 games with 0 controversy, 4 games with 0 injuries. Prime examples: Fulham away, Everton at home, Chelsea away, and Newcastle away. These 4 games, they have dropped points in. They did not have a single injury. They got 3 points out of a possible 12. They did not have a single injury. There was no controversial decisions in those games, and they dropped points in every single one of those games. So over the stretch of the year, over even now, like, I know people will say, oh, Arsenal have given up and stuff like that. Like, they still wanted to win towards the end against Brentford. They still wanted to win towards the end against Everton. Like, okay, did they wake up too late? Were they as motivated as they were at the start of the season? No, but that still is a measuring stick. I mean, they go away to Forest, they draw, they like, and one of the things that we have said about Arsenal this season that I feel like have just been swept under the rug is the fact we said on the Football Terrace and on multiple platforms, why is it every single time Liverpool drop points, so do Arsenal? This is been one of the constructive criticisms regarding Arsenal. Like, is it a mentality thing? What exactly is it? Because every time we played before Arsenal and dropped points, they went on to drop points the game after. That's just the reality of the situation. While in the reverse, it did not happen. And if your logic is injuries, listen, I can talk about like the injuries for Liverpool as well, because we've had injuries ourselves. People look at Alisson as one of the best keepers in the world. He was injured. Konate was injured. Trent was injured, is injured right now. Best fullback in the world. Midfielders injured at different points in time this season. Jota injured, etc. Now, is it unfortunate for them that they had multiple injuries in the same position? Probably, but that still doesn't excuse some of the results where they had everyone fit. So for me, I'm looking at Arsenal, and I still think Liverpool would win the league, even with Arsenal having all their players fit. But
that can be an argument.
Would we be 13 points ahead? Probably not. We might be 6 points ahead, 7 points ahead. But
can I add something? The 4 games that Sam said, Liverpool also drew to Newcastle away, dropped points. Liverpool dropped points at. Okay, you dropped points at home to Fulham. They won. You haven't played Chelsea away yet. You drew to Man United at home. They won to Man United. We can do both arguments. And you had Mohamed Salah there. You had Van Dijk when you drew to Man United at home. So you cannot have that when all their players are fit. Teams are expected to drop points. One team is expected to drop points here. One team is expected to drop points there. It doesn't have to be similar, Hussam. Like, you cannot use these 4 games as the measuring stick, because you also drop points in games that I would expect the champions to win. You lost to Nottingham Forest at home and you drew away. So you basically took 1 point from that team. Like, we cannot have this argument about my evidence is that they drop points against this team when everyone is fit. Because you are expected to drop points, because it's the Premier League. No team is expected to win every game.
Yeah, look, I look at it this way, right? Firstly, I think the league table never lies. When Man United was second under Ollie and a false position, it wasn't a false position. That season, we were the second best.
I remember the argument on Spaces with Johnny, big up Johnny.
So I'm not going to change my logic on that. But when you go who's better in that 5-year period, Man United or Liverpool, just because we finished ahead of Liverpool that season, Liverpool was still a better team. I think we could all objectively still say, I still think Liverpool are better than us. They just weren't better than us this season. And I think that this is where it's about having an adult conversation. I think the arguments made for Arsenal hold water in the context of, do you sack Arteta or not? Because the injuries, some of them, maybe they could have been prevented, like Saka. Kai Havertz is an example, was a problem. Also with the injuries, I look at the club and go, well, have you built a strong enough squad? So injuries are an excuse in terms of the manager and the team getting the results they want. But who they're not an excuse for is how the squad's been built over the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So I think you can have that conversation sometimes. I don't blame the Arsenal players that were left fit for struggling in certain games, because it's not their fault. Their club didn't buy a bigger and deeper squad, as an example. What I would say is this: Liverpool have just been better than Arsenal this year. If you look over the last 3 seasons, Liverpool won more trophies. They're about to win the Premier League. They won domestic trophies last year. In the league, though, in terms of league standings, Arsenal over the last 3 years have been better than Liverpool in terms of the league positions. So that's an indicator of, tonight's game may change everybody's minds, but that's an indicator of, look, build that squad a little bit stronger and see how it goes, because they are really close, Arsenal. They are very, very close to being champions of England. Now, some will say they're 13 points off the top. How are they close? What I mean by close is, you start this season with a striker like a Gyökeres or an Isak or an Osimhen. I think the whole complexity of the season is different. It's not, I don't think Arsenal need 10 new players. They want to add a midfielder because they've got players going out. I think they want to add another winger. But to answer the initial question, who's better? Look, this season, it has absolutely been Liverpool. But I don't think there is clear blue water. So if Arsenal have a good summer, even if Liverpool do have a good summer themselves, it doesn't mean that I can't see a world where next season Arsenal finish ahead of Liverpool in the league. Because I think they're both very good teams, if that makes sense. And
can I present you an argument that you never thought about? I'll finish, please. Go ahead, finish your point. Can I present you an argument?
Often what happens with fans in these conversations, it becomes about, are you saying my team's shit? How dare you say that? I don't think it's about, is Liverpool crap, is Arsenal crap? I think they're 2 very good teams. Arsenal have underperformed in the Premier League this year. The tactics early on in the season by Mikel Arteta is one thing to look at. Not a good enough summer window, not a good enough January window. Injuries have, of course, played their part, but the injuries were amplified by the poor windows as an example. Those things can all be rectified, which is why I think that there is it's not a mad prediction to say next year. If somebody said next season, I think Arsenal will finish above Liverpool, I don't think that's a crazy take. I don't think it's a mad take.
But I can counter what you said something. Liverpool depth is also not as good, but they were lucky. And I'm not saying like it's part of the football that Mohamed Salah doesn't have anyone behind him that can produce anything like 10% of his goal tally. By the way, people tell me, but Salah has always been fit and he's always taking care of himself. So Saka never had a long-term injury before. That is something that didn't happen before.
You are right,
for example, Arsenal have more depth in defense, but Liverpool were lucky that Van Dijk stayed fit all season. By the way, they don't have depth in the midfield, but Gravenberch has had a fantastic season. It is, by the way, I don't know. Maybe Ali, you can find me another word for it, right?
But another word, because next season, Ali, Salah goes out for 4 months, Van Dijk goes out for 2 or 3 months, and
Arsenal have all their players fit.
Yeah, then I think some Liverpool fans will say, "Oh, Arsenal have got a bit of luck there." And again, luck is probably the wrong word for it.
Before you proceed, can I give you 2 examples of why it's not luck first?
Why?
Find us a different word, maybe.
Okay, I'll give you 2 examples. Carabao Cup, Arsenal. I think they were 4-0 up against Preston. They brought on Saka. And the game after that, it was Blackburn or someone.
I understand. I understand that point. But I remember the season when you guys had the injuries and people were going in at you. I remember that season. Liverpool fans were saying we've been unlucky. But I remember Jota got injured when he played in the dead rubber Champions League game, as an example.
And we all blamed Klopp.
But this is and most Arsenal stop it. Most Arsenal fans have blamed Arteta for Saka. The point I'm making, and Mo's already addressed it, maybe the right word isn't luck, but we all know, typically speaking, when it happens to our team, we feel unlucky. When it doesn't happen to a rival, we feel they're lucky. And I think that those things can be addressed. Sometimes it is luck, though. For instance, it was bad luck that Van Dijk's knee went. He couldn't do nothing about that, as an example. And he, by the way, he came back and was scoring goals and playing well. The way Gabriel Jesus did his knee was a freak accident in the Man United game. That had nothing to do with the training, as an example. You look at the foul that was on Odegaard that put him out for like 2 months of the season. That nothing can be done about that. So I think some injuries, there is overplaying and maybe not good enough taking care of yourself. There are other injuries that are just bad luck. And again, I think we get into this conversation where we become so polarized. We don't look for the wood for the trees. Some injuries, your managers made mistakes or players made mistakes. Others, you just can't help. And some seasons, you just get more of that than other campaigns.
You want to tell me that it's not luck that Kahava gets injured in Dubai and Gabriel Jesus tears his ACL in the same time? Like that is it's purely luck.
Yeah,
like if Salah, if Gakpo goes out and Diaz go out at the same time, I'm going to say it's luck.
This is what I mean, though, Samir. No one is saying that Arsenal are the only teams to have injuries, but the conversation that Mo is talking about is nitpicking between 2 teams. So we can only talk about those 2 teams in the context of this season. So we're not saying that no one else has had injuries. That really isn't the point of what's being said. And if you actually listen to what Mo said, he actually said it isn't even about whether they're better than Liverpool or not. It's about the Arteta outers considering lots of things that went wrong. And could they be better next season if they stick with the manager? It wasn't directly about Liverpool the way Mo actually presented it in the end, to be fair. People take offense to the term luck, but in reality, every single team that has ever won needs an element of luck. You can have a brilliant squad, a certain threshold of injuries just can't be mitigated. It's very, very true.
I do agree. Luck is every single winner of a Premier League or a Champions League in history has had some form of element of luck, but luck is never the sole reason. Luck could play 5% role, but
some seasons, and then the next season you get 20% bad luck. The next season you get 30%.
Terry, you grew up on Arsenal, Man United. Didn't one of the years like Rio Ferdinand missed 6 months and then Arsenal caught up to you? Like how? So what is that? All luck.
We had. I mean, look, there was the season before. There was seasons where we had when Roy Keane did his knee, and we missed out on. When we lost the 4-peat chance to Chelsea by 1 point. so much of that season, Rio Ferdinand and Vidic missed through injury. And it wasn't injuries of being overplayed. It was just bad luck that season. And
what do people say? Jose came in and won the league. They don't say, oh my God, he was lucky because Ferguson didn't have his players.
But what it is, it's like when the referee decisions happen. When your team benefits from one, people hate it being discussed because they feel like, and again, I think it's just an immaturity in mind. People feel like you're saying you didn't deserve to win today because the ref gave you a penalty that probably wasn't one, rather than objectively speaking about the decision. Arsenal didn't need a striker then with the goals spread team-wise, 5 or 6 goals each. Arteta doing his best, but injuries this season have been a real problem. But this is the thing. That's why they needed that extra player. Because had you gone and got Yorkeres in the summer and still had all the same injuries, you'd have another player that was scoring goals, my friend. Hussam just said a whole lot of nonsense. Liverpool have not had the same level of injuries as Arsenal. Arsenal at no point played with a full 11 team squad.
The team that played in the Champions League final for Liverpool Football Club, in that final in 18-19, only played one game together in their history. Liverpool 2-0 Spurs. So when you're talking about luck and injuries and stuff like this, I think you're all coping in the chat. I think you just must admit that you've just not been good enough, and it's been proven on the football pitch multiple times.
Yeah. Twisted Bubba here says bad luck or poor planning. Well, again, I think that's a polarized standard FC view of just going for one, and it's only one, and there's no nuance in any areas. You can put poor planning into it, but like I've said, there was some poor planning from Arsenal this year, granted. But then it's bad luck that a player does his cruciate ligament the way he did, the way Odegaard got injured is bad luck. So I think it's a combination of two, and everyone with a brain knows it's a combination of two. Hamstring injuries, how much percentage is luck? Well, this is the thing, though. 2 seasons ago, I remember all the teams were having, it might be 1 season ago, the amount of ACLs, Madrid had loads, everyone was getting ACLs. They've died down a lot this year, haven't they? Sometimes, years, you just go through these. There was a time when I was younger where every fucker for like 5 months broke their metatarsal. You never even hear that injury anymore. I think, again, that's why I mean sometimes you've got to look at things on a wider scale. If Partey plays, does it destroy the criminal narrative? Yeah, I'm not getting involved in that. I'm being honest with you. I mean, clearly, because there's this rumor that he's not allowed in Spain. He's already been to Spain this year, so I don't really know why it's a talking point anymore. But